In the last video help, we discussed the primary record and the data that was going to be included in an individual record for one person. Now that one person has all these screens, and they're called popovers as they come up and show you data that you can enter. The purpose of this application is to automate some of the information and input and manage it a little bit better than having to have multiple applications either on an iPhone, iPad, Mac, or Windows. What it does, it brings together each one of these different product subjects. For example, if you're taking and putting in daily activity, you might be doing that in some application either on a Mac or Windows that supports adding information like this. For example, in this case, the popover for activities are individual tasks that are happening on a daily basis where you want to keep records or for example, like having a calendar. Only this one expands all the information that you need and more that is related to calendars. For example, you can put in a date and a time, just like you would in a calendar, and you can put a person or an activity name up at the top. Now, the activity name is an important part of the activity itself because it describes what's going to be happening. Now, what happens if I'm going to a doctor's appointment and I go to the calendar, it's going to want the doctor's name up there. It's not going to give you the option to put in something that's a little bit more obscure, but useful as far as an application to support the type of information you need for activities. In this case, it expands. It tells you the activity place. In this case, if I were using the application in say the calendar, it would not give me the opportunity to do things like this. If I have an activity type, maybe I want to do a search later on using the power of the portal when I'm in a portal to find different times, maybe several times that I went to the doctor. I could put the doctor's name in or something about that. For example, the activity, if it included the doctor's name, I could find every time I went to the doctor by doing a search in the activity portal, which is this right here. We're going to be showing that in a minute. Also, in the activity, if I do a pop down to pick different things, for example, like a doctor's appointment, family visit, and so forth. What happens if I want to change that? Well, what I can do is come over to the text that's in italic over here, and it's basically saying if there's something in italic on the field description, that means that I can edit this field over here. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go to that screen. When I come to this screen, what I want to do is it's an activity type portal. In this particular case, this is the thing that is currently up here. If I wanted to edit something, and for example, if I click on it, it allows me to edit in the edit screen and put it up here. If I want to add a new record so that I have a blank, I would click on this and then go ahead and add that new thing that I'm going to do in there. Like I could put in car service. Okay, now obviously on an iPad or iPhone, you're going to be using the pop-up keyboard. Well, on the Mac, you don't have to do that. All I have to do is click off of it, and it adds the car service in alphabetical order. It will be put in the list. So now it's a part of the drop-down list. Let's go back and verify that. So we'll navigate back, and then we'll go over here and we'll say, okay, let's look at the activity. Look in this particular drop-down, and now we have car service in here. So you can add anything you want to add in those screens depending on how you want to use your activity popover. Now it's still true of other things that you're going to be doing in the application where you can add data and have popovers and then go in and change the particular list of items. Now let's go to the next things. Who's attending? This might be something where you're going to either a business thing, or maybe you're going to pick somebody up and take them with you to a function, or it could be any kind of function. For example, a wedding or anything like that. It might be family. If it's family, you can go over here and create things for family type of things, but you can create both if you want to. You can have this activity, and you may want to do something with the family, maybe the day before, the day after, or another time during the day. Now, what I want to point out here is there's notes to clarify this a lot more so you can see what the actual information is based on what you're going to be doing in this particular record. The end time is the time that we expect this particular thing to end. Start time, date, and end time. Now, in this particular case, I want to point out that this is a scrolling record, so you can add another record in here, or many records if you want to. And this one makes a good example. This is a birthday party, and everybody that's going to be listed is over here that are going to be at the party. So whoever's contacting people would have to check. Say, for example, if I'm setting up the party, I'm going to make sure I contact each one of these people and then make a comment in my notes if they're coming as RSVP. And of course, these are endless fields, so you can put as much in here as you want to. And you can still search on these too if you do a find. Now that we've got this far, let's go ahead and go over to the portal and look at the portal record. In the portal record, you're going to see all the same fields and all the information you created in that record. Now be clear on this. You have to create records like this in the management screen, and then they will be copied over here for whatever you put over there in that main screen with the popover will show over here. So you're supposed to create this in the popover screen, and then you can edit it or search on it in here. If you're going to go over and do a do action, for example, you can look through anything and start a find and say, for example, I want to find everything that's going to happen on a certain date, or I want to do it at whatever the activity is, or maybe I'm looking for something that has a word in it like Costco in this particular case. And this thing says, for example, have a cake made at Costco. It could expand to say, pick it up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon prior to the 6 o'clock party that you're going to have. So there's a lot of stuff you have is to be flexible. Now be clear, you can actually edit anything here and it'll show up in the other record. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop down here and I say pick up the cake. At 2 o'clock. So that is added now in there. Of course I did a little thing there, right? Which happens typically if you're fudging around with your keyboard. Now I'll go back and navigate back to the Daily Manager screen, go over and look at the activity, and you'll see now that the activity shows up, pick up the cake at 2 p.m. So whatever you add here, and I could add it here on this side. For example, I could have added that phrase or that sentence, and it would have shown up in the portal record as well. So that gives you an idea of how you can manipulate the screens using the popovers. Part of the main reason for this is if you have ever done a look at, or you're looking at applications and you want to identify something in an application that would be useful for your business or your personal use, and you realize that every time you have to do something, you have to navigate to a different screen. Now these are the screens over here are basically sub-screens off of the Daily Manager screen. But these are the primary secondary screens. In other words, these are sub-screens that you're going to be using to fill data in over here. Now, one of the things that we just did over here recently is we looked at the Daily Manager list view and looked at the people that are in there. I'm going to go to that screen at the same time. Now I can navigate to another screen. Maybe I want to look at the Friends and Family portal, or I want to look at the list view for the Friends and Family. You can see I could navigate with one click to get anywhere I want to go to. This is very important about how you work within the application. But there's another thing too. When you're inputting data and you have to jump between screens, in other words, every time I want to do something different, I have to go to a different screen, it really slows you down and takes much longer. That's why it's so important to have things like popovers. Let's go to the next one. The next one is the Family and Friends, or Friends and Family popover. Who, for in this case, it's a who, visit, or whom. Visit to purpose, you can put a little text in there, and it actually scrolls if you put more than that in there. Visit date, visit time, and if you have to bring something, bring something. Now, typically, if you're going to visit a family or friends, you may have something you're doing as far as bring something or a note that you can put in there that relates to the visit, so that you remind yourself before you go that maybe you're going to bring over a bottle of beer or a 6-pack or a bottle of wine or something like that. It's a reminder for you. Now, if you have this on your iPhone, this application, it allows you to go through and shop for things if your list is very long. The more you put in here, if you get off the bottom and adding text, it'll put a scroll bar on the side, or you can just finger gesture on the iPhone to scroll it up and down. And in the same manner, there are multiple records in here, so you can be looking at multiple records that are things that you've got to do. Now, if you are trying to find something, it may be quicker for you just to go into the portal record, which is the portal record for friends, and go ahead and do a find in here under the do action and do a find for that particular thing, that particular date or time or whatever, to find the items that you want to add or edit in this particular screen. So if I wanted to bring a bottle of wine, I could add it here, or I could add it in once I created the master record in the popover. It would be added here as we did in the last record. Let's navigate back. So we have so far covered the activities and the friends and families. We're going to do something a little different in the rest of this video. What we're going to do is we're going to look at social media. If you have a social media thing for yourself where you have multiple screens that you want to look at in an application on a browser, and works especially well if you're on an iPhone and you don't remember either the URL or maybe you want to add a new found social media site, you can add it in this list. You can have as many as you want. So for example, if I wanted to go to YouTube or Google or Facebook, all I had to do to view the website is to go ahead and click on the view website. You can add URLs in an ad. I'm going to go over and show you. You can add a URL here and you can add the name of the URL. And you do that by saying add a record, and then it'll explain over here, which is very important. You need to include the http://, or in the case of a one type of screens where they need to have the HTTPS for a prefix, you have to do that. So if you have a problem getting on the site, make sure that it doesn't require an S, like for example, Facebook does. In this particular case, you'll see I put that in there automatically. If you don't put it in this screen, you're using this URL when you go to Facebook. If you have a problem, come back and edit this screen. Let's pop over real quick and go back to the main manager screen. Go to not friends and family, and you can see I can just pop back and forth. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say find Facebook. And what happens is it'll pop over and it'll load the Facebook screen. Now, you have to put in your actual login and information like that. Now, what may happen depending on what screen you have and the rights to get in, what it'll do is it'll automatically find your username and password, and then all you have to do is log it in. You know how that works if you have a personal computer. You can also create an account just like you would on any other site. Now, if I pop back over and navigate back to the screen, I can come back over to social media and I can pick a different site, maybe like YouTube. Okay, I'm going to go to YouTube, and depending on how you have set up your YouTube, and the same thing goes for maps, which you're going to see in the next type of thing that loads stuff like this. You can scroll around. You have plenty of area to go ahead and view everything and scroll all through whatever you want to look for. And you of course have at the top, you can do a search. You can do whatever's trending in subscription. You can go in and look if you have logged yourself in with your own account. I have 61 unread notifications. That's quite a few. And if I click on my picture, it'll also give me my personal information if I want it. And of course you can upload things. Now I would probably, if I'm going to do upload, I would probably upload it on my desktop, but you still have the opportunity to do it here if you want to. Or you can search, or you can actually go in and look at specific things that you're interested in. I like doing this one because you can click on this and get all the current things that are out there that you might be interested in. So in my particular case, I'm interested in UFOs or that kind of media. For example, here's one here from NASA, and you can pop it and it comes right into your screen. Look how fast that is. It's very
YouTube is great for people that are...
So it's very fast to load, and what I like about it, once you have this navigation capability, you don't have to recall when you get into a browser to put what URL you want. It's already there for you. So if we go back to the master, okay, the next things we're going to be covering in the next video is My Internet, Daily Planner, Travel Text, Tracks, and Photos and Maps. We're going to do that in the next video. See you in the next video.